You were stitched together by stardust and storms. Your tears watered seeds no one saw. Still you bloomed. You carry a rhythm, a fire, a softness no soul can duplicate. What makes you special? You're still rising, still loving, still shining, unapologetically. And that is your divine fingerprint on this world. You were born worthy, not because of what you've done or failed to do, not because of what the world says about you or fails to recognize in you. Worth is not earned. It is breathed into your bones the moment life kissed your lungs. You arrived whole and enough without having to prove a single thing. That is not arrogance, child. It is truth, sacred, unshakable truth. And the sooner you remember that, the sooner the world will stop shrinking you to fit into rooms you were born to own. They will try to wrap your identity in labels. Too loud, too quiet, too much, not enough. But you are not theirs to label. You are not some jar on a shelf waiting for a name to give you value. You are the wind that bends trees and still finds grace to kiss their leaves. You are the hush before the dawn and the thunder when injustice dares to speak. Don't you dare forget that. You have walked through fire and come out carrying the flame. That alone speaks volumes. You've cried in silence, smiled when it hurt, stood when your knees buckled under the weight of unseen pain. There is dignity in surviving, and in thriving after survival, there is divinity. Not one scar on you is wasted. They are the ink of your living story, and every one of them says, I was here, I mattered, I overcame. You've been told to humble yourself, to shrink, to apologize for shining too brightly. But listen to me. Humility is not silence in the face of truth. Humility is knowing you are a mountain and choosing not to crush those who cannot climb you. Knowing your worth doesn't make you proud. It makes you peaceful, rooted, clear. You don't need applause to know your value. You don't need a crowd to validate your light. The sun doesn't wait for permission to rise, and neither should you. Somewhere along the way, someone made you believe your value was attached to your productivity, to how much you earn, how much you give, how little you need. But you are not a machine. You are not a measurement of usefulness. You are a soul, a spirit, a living testament to resilience and grace. You are here to live, not to earn your right to breathe. And that, beloved, is enough. They will try to make you forget. They will point to what you lack, what you haven't done, what they think you should be. But they are not your mirror. They cannot reflect back to you the truth of your being. That truth was written in a language older than time and more sacred than speech. It sings in your heartbeat. It whispers in your quiet moments. It roars when you finally say, no more shrinking, no more dimming. I am enough just as I am. You were not made in duplicate. No one has your voice, your laugh, your lens on the world. There is something you offer that the world cannot get from anyone else. It may be a word at the right time, a look that saves someone from falling, a presence that calms the storm in someone else's chest. You don't need to do everything to be special. Just being fully you, deeply you, is miracle enough. Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting to be perfect. You're not porcelain. You're earth and breath and bone. You're not here to perform worth. You're here to embody it, own it, walk in it, speak from it. And when the world gets loud and confusing, when doubt slips in like a whisper, put your hand on your heart and feel it beat. That is your reminder. You are alive, you are here, and you are already enough. There's a sacredness in being, in choosing to wake up, to show up, to love again, even after being broken. That quiet strength, that unshakable I am, is your inheritance. No title, no praise, no spotlight can add to it, and no failure, no rejection, no silence can take it away. Worth is not a reward. It is your birthright. Resilience does not arrive dressed in ease. It comes wrapped in trials, bruised and battered, bearing witness to the storms you've survived. Struggle does not ask permission. It enters unannounced, breaks things apart, and demands you rise from what's been shattered, and still you rise. That right there is resilience. Not the absence of pain, not the denial of fear, but the audacity to keep breathing, moving, believing despite it. You don't need anyone to tell you you've been through it. You've lived it. You've had nights where the ceiling was your only witness, where your tears felt heavier than your body. You've known loss, rejection, silence, betrayal. You've questioned your worth because life sometimes whispers lies when it hits hard. But through all of it, even with trembling hands, you kept holding on. And that quiet, stubborn hope, that's resilience. You were told strength looked like never crying, never breaking, but real strength, true, holy resilience, looks like crying and still getting up, looks like breaking and still choosing to heal, looks like saying, I can't do this, and still doing it anyway. Strength is not loud. Sometimes it is a whisper in your soul that says, try again tomorrow. And sometimes that whisper is all you have and all you need. Pain may have visited you, but it did not make a home in you. You didn't let it. You opened the door, looked it in the eye, and said, I'll feel you, but you won't define me. That choice, that courage, is resilience in its most sacred form. You didn't run from the fire, you walked through it, and now you carry light in places that used to be shadows. People often miss the strength it takes just to keep going. They think survival is small because they've never had to fight just to make it through the day. But you know better. You know what it's like to get up when nothing in you wants to. You know what it means to keep loving after being broken open. That kind of strength can't be taught. It's earned through every moment you didn't quit. You may not have medals. No applause followed you when you chose peace over revenge, when you forgave without apology, when you kept silent to protect your peace. But those choices, made in the quiet, built a spirit too grounded to be shaken by chaos. That's what resilience does. It roots you in something deeper than fear, deeper than doubt. It anchors you to your becoming. You didn't just survive, you grew. And growth through pain is a sacred kind of transformation. You found a way to make something out of the hurt, to take the ashes of what was and mold them into something beautiful. You didn't let bitterness make a home in your heart. You didn't let despair steal your future. You chose hope again and again, even when it felt like the weaker option. That choice, that's power. There is beauty in your becoming, and it's not because the road was smooth, it's because you kept walking when it wasn't. You've gathered wisdom that cannot be taught in books. You've learned the rhythm of rising, the strength in surrender, the grace in starting over. Every bruise became a lesson, every wound a reminder that you were still alive, still willing to try again. Resilience doesn't mean you never feel pain. It means you refuse to be buried by it. It means you've learned to bend without breaking, to rest without quitting, to cry without collapsing. It means you've made a home inside your soul where peace can live, even when the world outside is shaking. And let's be clear, resilience doesn't mean being invincible. It means being vulnerable and strong at the same time. It means carrying your story not as shame, but as testimony. You wear your healing like armor now, not to guard yourself, but to remind others it's possible. Your scars don't make you less, they make you real. They speak of what you've endured, and more importantly, what you've overcome. So when you feel weary, when life asks too much again, remember what you've already survived. You don't need to become anything more to prove your strength. The evidence is already in your breath, in your choices, in the fire you've walked through. You are resilient, not because you never fell, but because every time you did, you stood back up. Your voice is not just sound, it is spirit, it is history, it is healing and thunder and revelation. Somewhere deep within you lies a truth that has waited long enough to be spoken. Not the polished, edited, acceptable version, not the one wrapped in politeness so others feel comfortable, but the raw truth, the soul truth, the kind that shakes rooms and changes lives, the kind that first sets you free. You were not made to echo the world's noise. You were made to speak from your center, from that sacred, unfiltered place where your knowing lives. There is a wisdom inside of you that wasn't taught. It was earned. Through silence, through scars, through nights where your questions had no answer. And yet you listened, you waited, and now you are ready to say the things that only you can say. You may have been told to be quiet, told your truth was too much, too messy, too real. But listen, there is no shame in being real. There is no weakness in honesty. The world has enough masks, enough scripts, enough silence that pretends to be peace. But peace is not the absence of noise. It is the presence of truth, and your voice, brave and trembling, is the beginning of that peace. You don't owe anyone a diluted version of who you are. You don't need to compress your story into something more comfortable for others to consume. If your truth makes someone uncomfortable, let it. You were not put here to make the world more at ease. You were born to make it more awake. Speak anyway, especially when your voice shakes. That's when it's most powerful. Your truth may not be loud, it may not roar. Sometimes it comes in whispers, in journal pages, in prayers sent through tears. But even in that quiet, it is no less sacred, no less revolutionary, because every time you speak your truth, you choose yourself. Every time you don't shrink back, you teach your soul that it is safe to be seen. There's a fire inside of you, not to burn others, but to light the way. Your experiences, your questions, your vision, all of it matters. Every moment you doubted yourself and kept going. Every time you were overlooked but showed up anyway. Every time you chose love over bitterness, softness over survival, that's truth in motion. And your voice carries the echo of all those victories. The world is loud with opinions, but hungry for truth. Not the kind that shouts over others, but the kind that rises from lived experience. You've seen things, felt things, survived things that have shaped your perspective into something priceless. And when you speak from that place, even if just to yourself, you return to your power. You were not given your voice to imitate someone else. You were not meant to blend in, to mimic the tones of the acceptable, to chase applause that evaporates. Your voice is its own ecosystem, its own revolution. When you speak from the depth of your truth, you don't just liberate yourself. You give others permission to do the same. Some truths are soft, some are sharp, some are still unfolding. But all of them are valid. Don't wait until it's perfect. Speak now, even if it's uncertain. Speak now, even if it's unpopular. The world doesn't need more rehearsed performances. It needs more real. And you, beloved, are real in the most beautiful way. Truth does not require you to yell. It only requires you to be sincere. You don't have to convince or convert. You just have to share what is honest for you. That in itself is enough. Because your voice, when rooted in truth, carries weight beyond words. It becomes medicine, it becomes mirror, it becomes memory. And if they don't listen, keep speaking. If they don't understand, keep standing. If they reject your truth, remember this: their reaction does not define your value. Their discomfort does not negate your clarity. You didn't come this far to be silenced. You came to be heard, even if only by the deepest parts of yourself. You are not lost. You are not too late. You are not too broken. You are a voice, divine, necessary, luminous. Speak like the sky listens. Speak like your ancestors hear you. Speak like your future depends on it, because it does. No one has walked this road like you. No one has carried your name through storms, through stillness, through seasons of silence and unexpected bloom. Yours is a journey carved not by maps, but by moments. unseen, unshared, often misunderstood. And still you move, still you rise. Still you choose to continue down a path that is wholly your own. People may try to compare stories, but yours was never written for comparison. It wasn't shaped for imitation. There's no blueprint for the becoming you're doing. You've lived through what others couldn't see, borne weights no one else had to carry, and made choices not everyone would understand. That doesn't make your path wrong. It makes it yours, singular, sacred, necessary. There were days you didn't know if you were moving forward or just surviving. Days where the mirror didn't reflect strength, only questions. But even in the wondering, there was purpose. Even in the stillness, something inside you was shifting, growing, healing. You weren't lost. You were just on a part of the journey that had no signs. And sometimes the most beautiful transformations happen in the dark, far from the eyes of the world. You may not have the same timelines as others. You may not hit the milestones when they do. But time is not the measure of meaning. Progress is not always loud. Sometimes it's choosing peace when anger is easier. Sometimes it's taking a breath before reacting. Sometimes it's waking up and facing the same battle with just a little more courage than yesterday. That's movement. That's growth. That's the sacred unfolding of your journey. There's a wisdom you carry that didn't come from books or speeches. It came from walking through the fire and learning how to breathe anyway. From standing in the middle of your undoing and still choosing to love yourself. From being misunderstood but not betraying your truth just to be accepted. Every step, every stumble, every restart has added depth to your walk. And that depth, that's what makes you luminous. You've seen others race ahead, take shortcuts, skip steps. You've watched people arrive before you even knew where you were going. But remember this, their pace is not your purpose. Your journey is not slow, it is intentional. Some things take time because they are being built to last. You are not falling behind, you are becoming solid. There is no failure in detours, no shame in reroutes. Every change in direction has taught you something about your heart, your limits, your power. You've lost things that felt essential only to discover what was truly sacred. You've let go of what you thought you wanted and found what your soul actually needed. That kind of clarity can't be rushed, it has to be lived. You are not the same person who started this journey. You are softer where it matters, stronger where it counts. Your boundaries are rooted now. Your compassion is deeper. You know how to hold joy and grief in the same hand without letting either crush you. That kind of strength isn't visible to everyone, but you feel it. You know it's real. This path you're on may not be glamorous. It may not come with easy answers or clear endings, but it is honest. It is yours. And that makes it beautiful. You're building something that no one else can build, a life that reflects who you really are, not who you were told to be. And the courage it takes to keep walking that road, that's nothing short of divine. People may never fully understand how far you've come. They may never see the nights you cried through, the fears you faced, the voices you silenced just to keep going. But you know, and that knowing, that private, powerful awareness is enough. You don't need applause. You don't need permission. You need only to remember that every step, every decision, every quiet choice to stay true to yourself has led you here. You were never meant to walk someone else's road. You were meant to honor your own, to move with intention, to grow with grace, to fall, to rise, to learn, to begin again. And even now, with all the unfinished pieces and unanswered questions, your journey is worthy, not because it's perfect, but because it's yours. To love in this world is no small thing. To hold your heart open after disappointment, after betrayal, after life has tried again and again to harden you, that is a quiet revolution. A heart that loves is not weak. It is not naive. It is not something to be taken for granted. A heart that loves is a force, a fire, a sacred gift. You've known pain. You've seen the bitter edges of what it means to trust, to hope, to pour yourself into someone or something only to be met with silence or absence. And still you love. Still you choose kindness. Still you give when it would be easier to close the door and turn inward. That choice, to love anyway, is the most powerful kind of courage. A heart that loves sees beyond what's easy to admire. It notices the cracked places, the trembling voice, the tired eyes. It sees people not for who they pretend to be, but for who they are when they think no one is watching. A heart that loves doesn't look away. It leans in. It listens deeper. It chooses empathy, even when judgment would be simpler. You have that kind of heart, a heart that doesn't love for what it can get, but for what it can give. You've made space in your chest for people who didn't know how to stay. You've whispered encouragement to others when your own spirit was barely holding on. You've made love a practice, a language, a rhythm, something you offer not because others deserve it, but because that's who you are. The world often mistakes softness for weakness. But a heart that loves knows better. It knows that real strength is being tender in a harsh world. It knows that being gentle with yourself, being patient with others, choosing forgiveness when you could hold a grudge, those are not signs of fragility. They are signs of someone who has survived without becoming bitter, someone who has cried and healed and still chooses to care. You may not always be met with the same depth of love you offer. Some people will not know what to do with the kind of light you carry. Some will take without knowing how to give. But don't let that dim you. Your love is not wasted just because it wasn't received how you hoped. Love given sincerely is never lost. It plants seeds, it leaves echoes, it teaches others how to be better. There have been moments when your heart was weary, moments when you questioned whether it was worth it to keep opening, to keep trusting, to keep offering grace in a world that doesn't always return it. But you didn't stop. Even when your hands were empty, you kept reaching. Even when your soul was tired, you kept showing up. That is the mark of someone who understands love not as a transaction, but as a calling. A heart that loves is not perfect. It gets wounded, it doubts, it aches, but it always returns to its center, always finds a way to beat for more than just survival. That's the miracle of love. It refuses to die. It changes shape, it deepens, it matures, but it does not disappear. And if you've ever loved fully, fiercely, unconditionally, then you've touched something eternal. You don't need grand gestures or flawless words to prove the love you hold. It shows in how you speak to people, in how you remember the small things, in how you choose gentleness when anger would be easier. It shows in how you stay soft in a world that keeps giving you reasons to harden. That softness, that steady, quiet love, it matters more than you know. Some people chase legacy in wealth or fame, but the legacy of a heart that loves is deeper. It's in the lives you've touched, the comfort you've given, the way you made someone feel seen, heard, valued. Long after you're gone, your love will remain in stories, in memories, in the kindness you taught others by simply being who you are. So keep loving, even when it's hard, even when it feels invisible, even when it breaks you open, because the world doesn't need more armor. It needs more people like you, a heart that loves not just when it's easy, but especially when it's not. That is rare. That is holy. That is the kind of love that changes everything. There is a light within you that no one gave and no one can take away. It does not flicker because of outside winds. It does not disappear in the face of darkness. This light has been with you since the beginning, quiet, steady, and sacred. Some days you may forget it's there. Some days the world may try to dim it, but it remains, always. You were born with it, Before you were told who to be, before you learned how to hide, before you put on masks to be more acceptable, you were radiant. You smiled without permission. You laughed without apology. That was your light, pure and unfiltered. It wasn't earned. It simply was. And though life may have tried to bury it beneath layers of shame, fear, and pain, it still glows underneath it all, waiting. The light within isn't always loud. It doesn't need to shout or prove itself. Sometimes it glows quietly, guiding you when everything else feels uncertain. It shows up as intuition, as resilience, as the warmth you bring into cold rooms. It shows in your ability to forgive when it's hard, to hope when it seems foolish, to believe in goodness even after you've seen the worst. You don't have to be perfect for that light to shine. It isn't something that turns on only when you're successful or strong. It is there when you're broken, when you're tired, when you're unsure. It shows up when you're brave enough to speak your truth, to set boundaries, to love yourself through the hard days. It shines not despite your struggle, but because of how deeply you've lived. There are people who will never understand the kind of light you carry. They will mistake your softness for weakness, your depth for overthinking, your kindness for naivety. But don't let that make you question what's inside of you. Not everyone is meant to see your light. Some are just meant to feel it. Some will feel seen in your presence and not know why. That's your glow reaching them before words ever could. You've walked through things that should have broken you, and still you shine. Not because it didn't hurt, but because you chose to heal. That is your light at work. Every time you picked yourself up, every time you kept going, every time you decided to keep loving in a world that made it hard, you kept that light alive. And now it is part of your essence, unshakable, unmistakable. Let the world be loud. Let the noise rage on. You don't need to match its volume. Just stay rooted in your glow. There is power in being centered. There is strength in stillness. And sometimes the most transformative light is the one that doesn't try to blind. It just is. Gentle, steady, honest. That is who you are. There are days the world will feel heavy, days when you doubt your purpose, your impact, your voice. On those days, remember, the light within is not always about changing the world. It's about staying lit, about being a small flame in the middle of a storm and saying, I'm still here. That light is what keeps you grounded, what reminds you of who you are when everything else tries to tell you otherwise. You don't have to chase visibility to validate your light. You don't need spotlight or stage or recognition. You are not a candle waiting to be lit by someone else. You are the flame. You are the warmth. You are the reminder that even the smallest light can drive away the deepest dark. So tend to it. Protect it. Return to it often. Sit in silence and let it speak to you. Let it remind you that you are not lost. You are not late. You are not less than. You are illuminated from within, and that glow cannot be manufactured or replaced. It is yours and yours alone. You are the light in someone's darkness, the calm in someone's chaos, the hope they didn't know they needed. And even if they never tell you, even if no one notices, keep glowing. Because the light within you is not just for the world, it's for you, to guide you, to strengthen you, to bring you home to yourself again and again. You are not special because of what the world says about you. You are special because of what lives within you. Unshakable worth, quiet resilience, a voice that speaks truth, a journey that no one else could walk, a heart that loves even when it hurts, and a light that keeps shining through the dark. You do not need permission to own your sacredness. You do not need validation to stand tall in your becoming. The road has not been easy, but you've carried your soul with grace through every turn. And that, your essence, your courage, your presence, is the proof. You are already enough. You are already extraordinary. You are already whole. What makes you special? You do, simply by being.